You exposed this hospital to massive liability. 15 years ago, ward clerk Ava Hayes bent the rules to save a critically ill mother with 2 terrified children. Compliance officer Alistair Finch destroyed her career for it, fired her, blacklisted her, took everything. She rebuilt her life, opened a care home, found peace. Then Finch walked through her door with a buyout threat and a cruel smile. What he didn't know, those children were now adults with the power to destroy him. Before watching, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. It is not your place to interpret medical criteria, Ms. Hayes. You exposed this hospital to massive liability. Alistair Finch's words were measured, professional, devastating. From his pristine corner office at Boston Municipal Hospital, he controlled legal and compliance with absolute precision. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Not a paper out of place. Everything sterile. Everything controlled. His world was black and white, and Rule 6 existed for a reason. When data showed an uninsured MS patient receiving $70,000 in unauthorized treatments, he investigated with methodical thoroughness. Chart modifications. Adjusted income declarations. Reinterpreted symptom timelines. Every trail ended at Ava Hayes, a 45-year-old ward clerk who'd worked there 15 years. She'd bent the rules, created liability, exposed the hospital to risk. In Finch's world, compassion was irrelevant. Protocol was absolute. He didn't fire her. That would be messy. He simply delivered his warning with cold, quiet pressure, watching her sign the acknowledgement form with shaking hands. She understood her place now. 15 years later, Finch stood in the lobby of Willow Creek Care Center as a partner at Blackwood Capital Partners. The small facility was quaint but inefficient. Profitable potential if managed correctly. When the owner appeared from the hallway, he smiled his practiced smile. "Ava, it's been a long time." Then he watched recognition dawn in her eyes, watched her face drain of color. And his smile widened with satisfaction. Boston Municipal Hospital. Beeping monitors. Worn gurney wheels. Nurses on their feet for 10 hours too long. The scent of antiseptic, mixed with stale coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in institutional pale. Linoleum floors, scuffed from decades of use. Ava Hayes had started her shift at 6 that morning. Now, pushing 3 in the afternoon, her lower back ached. She'd been doing this for 15 years. She'd learned early that insurance cards came in different colors for a reason. Blue Cross Premier, that was the golden ticket. Flash that card, and doors opened. Specialists appeared. Medicaid, that faded green card meant waiting. It meant, we'll see what we can do. It meant watching people suffer while administrators checked boxes. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Always do the right thing, Ava, especially when no one is watching. Her mother had been a school nurse in Dorchester. She'd bent rules when rules needed bending. Ava saw the contrast daily. Suite 2B, premium insurance. Within an hour, the patient had a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, and a nutritionist conferring over his chart. 3 floors down, a man with Medicaid sat in a plastic chair, pressing a blood-soaked towel to his hand. He'd been there since noon. It was now past 3. Still waiting. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Then the ambulance arrived. The young mother was wheeled in. The paramedics moved quickly, their voices clipped and professional. 28-year-old female, MS relapse, left eye ptosis, severe tremors, BP 140/90. A nurse responded. Exam room 4. I'll get neuroconsult. Wait, another nurse grabbed the chart. Insurance? The paramedic shook his head. None. The first nurse stopped moving. Put her in the general ward. We'll see what we can do. Ava watched from the nurses' station. That phrase, we'll see. She knew what it meant. It meant nothing. She looked at the chart. Maria Reyes, 28 years old. A sudden, aggressive relapse of multiple sclerosis. The paramedics transferred Maria from the gurney to the bed in exam room 4. Her left eye was half closed, the eyelid drooping. Her hands trembled against the thin blanket. When she tried to lift her arm, it shook so violently she had to give up. But it wasn't Maria who broke Ava's heart. It was the children. 2 of them. A boy and a girl. The boy looked about 8, maybe 9. Dark hair that stuck up in the back. Serious eyes. A jacket 2 sizes too big that swallowed at his thin frame. He stood near the vending machines, one arm wrapped protectively around his little sister. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her face was streaked with tears, but Shay wasn't making a sound, just silent, shaking sobs. She clutched a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days, its ear hanging by a thread. The one remaining button eye caught the fluorescent light. The boy was whispering something to her, trying to be brave. His jaw was set, his eyes wet but defiant. Ava grabbed 2 juice boxes from the staff fridge and a blanket from the supply closet. She walked over slowly, crouching down to their level. "Hey," she said softly. "I'm Ava. I work here." The boy looked at her, scanning her face. "Is Mom gonna be okay?" Ava's chest tightened. She couldn't promise that. The doctors are going to do everything they can. She handed them the juice boxes and draped the blanket over the little girl's shoulders. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl didn't answer. She just buried her face deeper into her brother's side, the rabbit pressed between them. "Lara," the boy said quietly. "Her name's Lara. I'm Ethan." "You're both being so brave," Ava said. "Your mom is lucky to have you." Ethan's lip quivered. Just for a second. Then he clenched his jaw and nodded, blinking hard. Ava stayed with them a few more minutes. Then she stood and walked toward the nurses' station. Dr. Miles stood outside Maria's room, staring at the chart like it was a death sentence. His shoulders slumped, his tie loosened. Dr. Marcus Miles had been at Boston Municipal almost as long as Ava. He was one of the good ones. But 15 years in this place had worn him down. Ava approached. "Dr. Miles?" He looked up, gave her a weary smile. "Ava, hey." He glanced back at the chart. "You see this?" She nodded. "Maria Reyes. MS relapse." "Aggressive," Miles muttered. "Really aggressive. Left eye's almost gone. Motor control in her hands is shot. If we don't hit this hard and fast, she's looking at permanent disability. Maybe worse." He ran a hand through his thinning hair. "I know what we should do. Aggressive asteroid treatment. Get her on Tysabri. Maybe Ocrevus. Hit the inflammation before it does more damage." "But?" Ava asked, though she already knew. Miles sighed. "But she doesn't have insurance. And those drugs?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Tysabri runs about 60,000-70,000 a year. Ocrevus? Closer to 80. The hospital board won't approve it. Not without coverage." "What happens to her then?" Miles closed the chart. "Standard protocol. Supportive care. Pain management. We watch her lose her vision, her motor control. Then we send her home with a walker and a prescription for gabapentin she can't afford." Ava felt anger rising. "That's not medicine. That's abandonment." "That's the system," Miles said. He walked toward the nurses' station, his steps heavy. "I became a doctor to save lives, Ava, not to play accountant, not to decide who's worth saving based on their credit score." Ava watched him go. Then she looked back at Maria's room. Through the small window, she could see Maria in the bed, her eyes closed, her hands still trembling. And beyond, through the window into the hallway, Ethan and Lara, still huddled together, still terrified, still waiting. Something inside Ava twisted, hard. She thought about the man in Suite 2B, surrounded by specialists. She thought about the man in the ER, still holding that blood-soaked towel. She thought about all the charts she'd filed, all the families she'd watched break apart under the weight of a system that measured human life in dollars. She thought about her mother. Always do the right thing. Ava looked at Maria. She looked at Ethan and Laura. She looked at the chart. Insurance status, none. She made a decision. This family wouldn't be another statistic. Before she left, she went back to the vending machines. Ethan and Laura were still there. Ethan looked up. They said Mom's really sick. The doctors are helping her, Ava said. Laura's small voice. Is she going to be okay? The question pierced through Ava. The doctors are going to do everything they can, she repeated. Ethan's voice dropped. We don't have money. Dad left last year. Mom works at the diner, but she's been too sick. His voice cracked. Ava knelt down, looked him in the eye. Hey, look at me. You're not alone, okay? I'm gonna make sure your mom gets help. It was a promise. She didn't know yet how she'd keep it, but she would. That night, Ava stayed late. The hospital grew quiet. She sat at her computer, the screen glowing in the darkness. She wasn't a doctor. She wasn't a social worker. But she knew the system. And she knew it had cracks. She searched pharmaceutical company databases, patient assistance programs, clinical trial databases, expanded access, compassionate use. This was work a case manager should have been doing. But the hospital was chronically understaffed, focused on the bottom line. Families like Maria's were left to navigate the storm alone. Hours passed. Ava's coffee grew cold. Harry's burned. The clock ticked past 11, past midnight, past 1. She found 2 possibilities. A drug trial, a manufacturer's compassionate care grant. But the eligibility criteria were razor thin. Maria's income was just slightly too high for one. Her symptom onset date was just outside the window for the other. Ava stared at the forms on her screen. She opened the database, Trial 304B. Income threshold, $32,000 per year. Maria's record, $34,500. Just $2,500 over. Ava started calculating. Maria's base income, $34,500. She scrolled through the intake notes. Single mother, 2 children, child care costs, medical expenses from previous flare-ups. She factored in unreimbursed child care expenses, $3,000. Intermittent work status due to illness, $1,200 in lost wages. Adjusted household income, $30,300. Within the threshold. Next criteria. Symptom onset, within 6 weeks of enrollment. Maria's chart. The attending had written symptoms reported, last few weeks. Vague, too vague. Ava dug deeper. Found an earlier triage note. Preliminary assessment. Patient mentions mild tingling, approx. 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. That was the cutoff. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. The cursor blinked. Once, twice. In the silence, she could hear her own heartbeat. The hum of the computer fan. A distant beep of a monitor 3 floors down. Outside, a siren wailed past. Inside, only the hum of machinery. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark screen. Tired eyes, determined jaw. This is wrong, a voice whispered. But is it? Another voice countered. Is IT wrong to interpret data in a way that saves a life? She thought about Ethan's face. Is Mom gonna be okay? She thought about her mother's voice. A memory surfaced. 15 years old, sitting at the kitchen table. Her mother treating a student's infected cut, no insurance, no permission slip. Sometimes, Ava, the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same. When they aren't, you have to choose which kind of person you want to be. Her fingertip touched the key. Cold plastic. The click echoed. She typed the addendum. Per triage notes, Symptom onset consistent with 6-week window, placing patient within criteria for trial 304B. Her hand hovered over submit. Time seemed to stop. She pressed enter. The screen blinked. Processing. Then, application received. Ava sat back in her chair. Her hands were shaking. She'd crossed a line. She knew it. But she'd cross it again if she had to. 2 days later, Maria was approved for the high-cost treatment. The transformation was staggering. Day 3. Maria's vision in her left eye began to clear. She could see shapes, then colors, then faces. Day 5. The trembling in her hands lessened. She could hold a cup without spilling. She could sign her name. Day 7. She could stand. She could walk a few steps with support. She could hug her children without her arms shaking. Day 10. She was laughing. Ava heard it from down the hall, a sound so bright it made her stop in her tracks. Maria was sitting up in bed, Ethan and Lara on either side of her, all three of them smiling. Ava watched from the doorway. A fierce, quiet pride swelled in her chest. She had beaten the system. For one family, for one brief moment, she had won. But the system was watching back. Alistair Finch ran legal and compliance. His world was black and white, built from regulations and risk aversion. Rules existed for a reason. Without boundaries, chaos. Compassion without protocol was just weakness. He noticed an anomaly. An uninsured, high-cost MS, patient approved for 2 separate, expensive support programs in record time. He traced the authorizations, the addendums, the form submissions. They all led to one ward clerk, Ava Hayes. He felt a flicker of something. Not anger, not even disapproval. Satisfaction. Someone had made a mistake, and he would correct it. That was his purpose. That was order. He called her into his office. Top floor. Corner suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking all of Boston. Pristine desk. Not a paper out of place. Everything controlled. Everything sterile. Finch didn't stand when she entered. He gestured to the chair with one hand, his fingers steepled. Ava sat. Her heart pounded. "Your clerk, Ms. Hayes," he said. No hello, no preamble. Just cold, quiet pressure. Ava met his gaze. "I'm aware of my job title." Then, you're aware that it is not your place to interpret medical criteria. It is not your place to alter financial declarations. I helped a patient access care she was entitled to. Entitled? His voice turned colder. She was $2,500 over the income threshold. Symptom onset was ambiguous, at best. You manipulated data, make her eligible. I clarified data, Ava said. Her actual expenses. You exposed this hospital to massive liability, Finch cut her off. Ava leaned forward. Or we could save a life. That is not your decision to make. Silence filled the space between them. Finch leaned back, studying her. Ms. Hayes, do you have a medical degree? No, but... Do you have compliance certification? No, Then, on what authority did you determine medical necessity? On what authority did you reinterpret financial data? Ava had no answer. The silence stretched. Finch leaned forward, his voice dropping. You exposed this hospital to massive liability because you thought you knew better than our protocols, better than our legal team, better than 15 years of established policy. Ava's voice shook. I exposed us to saving a human life. That was not your decision to make. He slid a document across the desk. Sign this acknowledgement. If this happens again, your employment will be terminated immediately. Do you understand me? The threat hung in the air. Ava picked up the pen. Her hand shook as she signed. She understood perfectly. A few weeks later, Maria was discharged. Stable enough to go home. Stable enough to have a few more precious years with her children. The morning she left, Ethan and Lara left a folded piece of construction paper at the nurse's, Station for Ava. Inside was a crayon drawing. A superhero with Ava written in wobbly letters on the chest. A cape. Rainbows in the background. And tucked inside, a small photograph of the two of them smiling, Maria's arms around them both. Ava tucked it into her pocket, her throat tight. The next day, she was called into HR. Alistair Finch had filed his report. Internal policy violations. Overstepping professional boundaries. The HR director sat across from her. Ava, Mr. Finch has filed a formal complaint. Multiple policy violations. I saved a patient's life. That's not the issue. The issue is overstepping professional boundaries. The director slid a document across the desk. We're offering you a choice. Resign now, quietly, and we'll call it pursuing other opportunities. Or we initiate a formal investigation. Every future employer will see, terminated for cause, on your record. Every hospital in New England will know your name. Ava stared at the document in front of her. Voluntary, resignationagrement. 15 years. All of it reduced to this piece of paper. She picked up the pen. Signed. She cleaned out her locker. Walked out of Boston Municipal, the children's thank you note heavy in her pocket. 15 years passed. The sharp, antiseptic smell of the hospital was replaced by the scent of lavender and home-cooked meals. Ava and her husband, Marcus, had poured everything they had into Willow Creek Care Center. It hadn't been easy. The first 2 years, Ava couldn't find work anywhere in healthcare. Finch's word had spread quietly. She was difficult, a liability. Doors closed before she even walked through them. Marcus had been her anchor, a physical therapist with a steady heart. One night, 2 years into the darkness, Ava sat at their kitchen table, surrounded by rejection letters. Maybe he was right, she whispered. Maybe I should have stayed in my lane. Marcus pulled up a chair beside her, took both her hands in his. Listen to me. You saw a family in crisis, a mother, 2 terrified children, and you acted. You chose a human life over ASP read sheet. That's not weakness. That's courage. He squeezed her hands. We'll figure this out. Together, I promise you. Year 3, a small rehab center hired her for part-time admin work. No patient contact, just paperwork. But it was a start. Year 5, they found the property. An old converted house on the outskirts of Boston. It needed work, a lot of work. But Marcus saw potential. Ava saw a second chance. They bought it with everything they had. Savings, loans, Marcus's retirement fund. They were all in. Year 7, Willow Creek Care Center opened its doors. 10 beds, a small staff. But every patient got the care they needed, not the care their insurance approved. Year 10, their reputation grew. Families talked. Word spread. They added a wing. Hired more staff. Now, 15 years after walking out of Boston Municipal, they ran a facility the community trusted. Hardwood floors. Bright quilts. A staff that knew every patient's life story. Every morning, Ava walked the halls. Mr. Patterson was setting up the chessboard. Ava, you ready to lose again? Bold words for someone who can move the pieces. Mr. Patterson laughed. Parkinson's tremors knocked over a pawn. But he was laughing. That was everything. Next room. Mrs. Chen. Stroke rehab. I lifted 5 pounds today, Mrs. Chen said proudly. 5 pounds? Ava smiled. Last week it was 3. Next week, you'll be bench pressing me. Mrs. Chen's face moved slightly on the left side. A smile. Progress. In the hallway, a young veteran. Travis. Traumatic brain injury. Morning, Ava. Black. 2 sugars. Just how you like it. She handed him the coffee. You're too good to me. That's the point. On the wall behind her desk hung the crayon drawing. AVA in wobbly letters. A reminder of why she did this. Then the letter arrived. Tuesday morning. Thick cream-colored stationery. Embossed logo. Blackwood Capital Partners. A purchase offer. The number was respectable. But Ava knew what it meant. These firms bought facilities like hers, slashed staff, cut services, and flipped them for profit. Ava tossed the letter in the bin. A few days later, a sleek, black town car pulled up. Ava was helping Mr. Patterson with the chessboard when she heard the engine. She glanced out the window. A man stepped out. His suit was impossibly sharp. His movements precise, controlled. He walked toward the entrance like he already owned the place. Ava's breath caught. Something about him. He stepped into the sunlight. Time stopped. The chess piece slipped from Ava's hand. Clattered to the floor. Alistair Finch, 15 years older. But those eyes. Those cold, calculating eyes were the same. Mr. Patterson looked up. "You all right, Ava?" She couldn't speak. Her mind flashed back. That sterile office. That cold threat. The day her life had been torn apart. Finch walked in. He smiled when he saw her. Thin, practiced. Didn't reach his eyes. "Ava," he said, as if they were old friends. "It's been a long time. You've done well for yourself. Built something here." He walked through her facility, his gaze sweeping over everything with open disdain. "Charming," he said, "but inefficient. Of all the facilities in Boston, of all the targets for acquisition, it had to be hers." He felt a flicker of something. Not guilt, never guilt. This was an opportunity to finish what he'd started 15 years ago, to restore order. He sat in her office without being invited. Crossed his legs, completely at ease. "I'm a partner at Blackwood now. We specialize in optimizing healthcare assets. Your center is quaint, but it could be so much more. Profitable, even." Ava's hands clenched. "We're not for sale, Alistair." His smile vanished. The mask was off. "I was afraid you'd be difficult." He leaned forward. "We ran standard due diligence. On the facility. And on its owners." Ava's stomach dropped. "I took the liberty of reviewing your personnel file from Boston Municipal. Your exit was abrupt, forced resignation for compliance violations. I think the state licensing board would be very interested in your history, don't you?" "That was 15 years ago, Alistair. I've built something real here." "Built on what foundation, exactly? A forced resignation for compliance violations?" "I saved a woman's life." Finch smiled coldly. "You bent rules. You falsified documentation. And now you're responsible for vulnerable patients. Do you think the state board would be comfortable with that?" Ava realized the trap. "You wouldn't." "I don't have to do anything, Ava. I simply have to share information. Let the proper authorities make their determination." He stood, adjusting his cufflinks. "Of course, if Blackwood owned this facility, well, these complications would simply disappear." He straightened his tie. "Reconsider the offer, Ava. It's much cleaner for everyone involved." He left, but the chill stayed. The official notice from the State Board of Health arrived less than a week later. Cold, formal, terrifying. An order to appear at a public hearing regarding allegations of organized fraud, unauthorized medical practice, and systematic malfeasance dating back to her employment at Boston Municipal. Ava sat at her kitchen table, the letter in her shaking hands. It was a normal morning. Marcus had made coffee. The sun streamed through the windows, except for the envelope with the state letterhead. She opened it slowly. Read the first line, then the second. Fraud, unauthorized, malfeasance, publicheering. The room spun. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Finch hadn't just complained. He had built a guillotine. The documents her lawyer forwarded were masterpieces of malicious spin. Finch's claim, Ava Hayes, an unqualified clerk, had fabricated data to funnel dozens of patients into high-cost treatments, defrauding the hospital, insurance companies, and pharmaceutical partners of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had calculated the total cost of every patient Ava had ever flagged for a support program and labeled it all fraudulent claims. The local news picked it up. The narrative was irresistible. Local care homeowner accused of massive fraud. The TV screen showed Ava's photo next to sensational headlines. The phone started ringing. Families of her current residents. Ava, is this true? My father is safe there, isn't he? We're pulling him out. I'm sorry, we can't risk it. 2 families pulled their residents by the end of the week. A nurse, Diane, who had been with her for 5 years, quit. I have kids, Ava. She couldn't meet your eyes. I can't be associated with this. I'm sorry. Ava sat with her lawyer, Ben. A kind man with tired eyes. Ava, he said, pinching the bridge of his nose. I'm going to be honest. Legally, he has you. Your intent was good. I believe you. But the fact is, you altered those records. You stepped outside your job boundaries. On paper, you broke the rules. He sighed. If the board rules against you, they could revoke your operating license. They could refer this for criminal charges. You could lose everything. The center, your savings, everything you and Marcus have built. The weight landed on Ava like a physical blow. That night, she collapsed onto the couch, buried her face in her hands. The sobs came, silent and violent. I did this, she whispered when Marcus sat beside her. I tried to do one good thing. And now I'm going to ruin us. She looked up at him, tears streaming. Maybe Finch was right. Maybe I should have just kept my head down, stayed in my lane. Her voice broke. Maybe I should have just let them. She couldn't finish. Marcus took her hands. No, he said, his voice fierce. Don't you dare say that. You saw a family in crisis. A mother. 2 terrified children. And you acted. You chose a human life over a spreadsheet. He cupped her face. If choosing compassion over protocol is a crime, then the whole damn system is guilty. We will fight this. You did not do this for profit. You did this to save a life. And we will make them see that. But that night, all Ava could see was Finch's face and the life she'd built crumbling to dust. The hearing room was packed. Reporters lined the back wall. Ava and Marcus sat at a small table, facing 5 board members. The chairperson, a stern woman in her 60s, sat in the center. Alistair Finch sat at the opposing table, flanked by 2 expensive-looking lawyers. He looked confident, triumphant. The room itself was intimidating. High ceilings, wood paneling, the state seal on the wall, sunlight through tall windows. Ava's table was small. Just her, Marcus, and Ben. 1 stack of documents. Finch's table looked like a war room. Laptops, binders, and assistant organizing files. The chairperson banged her gavel. This hearing is now in session. Finch's lawyer began. His voice smooth, practiced, damning. A PowerPoint slide appeared. Maria's 15-year-old application. Red circles highlighted discrepancies. Income numbers. Symptom onset date. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, what you see here is not a simple clerical error. It is a deliberate, calculated act of fraud. Ms. Hayes systematically falsified records to secure treatments for patients she knew were ineligible. Slide after slide. The cost of the drugs. The hospital policy violated. Numbers in red. Words like liability and malfeasance in bold. Ava felt herself shrinking. The room closing in. She could feel everyone's eyes. Judging. Condemning. Ben did his best, arguing intent and lack of personal gain. But it sounded weak against Finch's mountain of facts. Does the defense have any witnesses? The chairperson asked, her tone already suggesting the answer didn't matter. Ben stood. We do. We call Ethan Miller. A man stood up from the back of the room. Tall, sharp suit that rivaled Finch's. Mid-20s. He walked to the witness stand with quiet, unshakable confidence. Finch frowned, whispering to his lawyer. This wasn't on their list. Mr. Miller, Ben began, please state your identity and your relationship to this case. The young man's voice filled the room. Clear, steady. My name is Ethan Miller. I am a managing director at Apex Health Investors. And 15 years ago, I was the small boy huddled in the hallway of Boston Municipal Hospital, while my mother Maria was fading fast. A collective gasp went through the room. Ava's head snapped up. Her eyes locked with his. She saw him. The small, terrified boy. Now a man. Looking at her with profound gratitude. The patient in question. That was my mother. Finch went pale. The color drained from his face. Mr. Miller, Ethan continued, turning to the board. You've heard what Ms. Hayes did on paper. Now let me tell you what she did in reality. Letting the silence build. She saved my mother's life. That unauthorized treatment gave my mother 6 more years. 6 years she got to see my sister and me grow up. 6 years we wouldn't have had if Ms. Hayes had followed protocol. He turned his attention to Finch. I am now in the healthcare investment world. I analyze risk. I analyze value. And I can tell you, from a medical economic standpoint, Ava's intervention was the most ethically sound, compassionate choice. He looked back at the board. You've heard calculations about drug costs and liability. But no one calculated the value of my mother's life. The graduation she attended, the birthdays she celebrated, the moments that are priceless. Literally, priceless. His voice strengthened. Miss Hayes understood that. Mr. Finch never did. Objection, Finch's lawyer shouted. This is irrelevant sentiment. It is entirely relevant, Ethan countered. Which brings me to my colleague. A young woman stepped forward from the back. Professional. Poised. Carrying a laptop. It was Lara. The little girl. Now a woman. Ben stood. The board calls Lara Miller. Lara set up her laptop, connecting it to the projector. I am a digital forensic specialist. At my brother's request, I subpoenaed and analyzed the full server logs from Boston Municipal's EMR system from the corresponding time period. On the screen, data appeared. Thousands of lines. Mr. Finch's evidence was highly selective. Cherry-picked. What he didn't show you was the complete log. She highlighted data strings with her mouse. Ava Hayes was involved in exactly 3 such cases over her entire 15-year employment. 3. In 15 years. The slide changed. New data. Red flags. Hundreds of them. Board members leaned forward. Reporters, pens froze mid-note. Finch's lawyer whispered urgently to him. Finch shook his head, pale. What I did find was a different pattern. Hundreds of patient files, all adjusted by Mr. Finch's office, not to include patients in care, to exclude them. 2. Downcode, diagnoses, to flag high-cost, low-coverage patients as non-compliant or unsuitable for aggressive treatment, all to prioritize hospital profitability. The room was silent. Nothing but breathing. Lara projected an email. The text was clear, damning. From a.finch@bostonmunicipal.org. To CFO. Subject, high-cost MS case. Handling the situation will ensure patient's move to palliative, not active treatment, reduces Q2 expenditure by $150,000. The date stamp, the day after Maria was admitted. A board member audibly gasped. The chairperson removed her glasses, staring at the screen. In the gallery, someone whispered, Hettried to block her care. Finch had been actively trying to block Maria's care while Ava was trying to save her. The entire narrative inverted in that moment. Finch stared at the screen, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. The chairperson leaned forward. Mr. Finch, You are not on trial here, but based on this evidence, you may be soon." She looked at the other board members. They nodded. She banged her gavel. "The allegations against Ms. Hayes are redismissed. Furthermore, this board will be referring the evidence presented today to the State Attorney General for investigation." The room exploded. Applause. Gasps. Reporters rushing for the door. Finch's lawyer grabbed his arm. "We're leaving. Now." They stood. Finch moved like a man in a daze. He looked at Ava once. His eyes held hatred, fear, defeat. Then he was gone. Marcus grabbed Ava, pulling her into a tight embrace. Ben clapped her on the shoulder. "You did it." Ethan and Lara approached. Ava stood, her legs shaking. The three of them faced each other. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ava pulled them both into her arms. All three were crying. "Thank you," Lara whispered. "Thank you for giving us our mother." Ava shook her head, tears streaming. "You just saved everything I've ever built. You saved me." Ethan smiled through his tears. "We've been searching for you for years. When we saw the news about the hearing, we knew we had to help." He pulled back, looking at her. "You never gave up on us. We weren't going to give up on you." The fallout was immediate. Finch was fired by Blackwood before he even left the building. His legal license was suspended pending investigation. The media narrative flipped. Ava was no longer a con artist. She was a hero. But Ava didn't care about the headlines. She cared about what came next. The next evening, Ethan and Lara came to Willow Creek. The center was quiet. Patients were settling in for the night. Ava led them to her office. She opened the drawer and pulled out the frame. The crayon drawing. She set it on the desk. "I kept it," she said. "All these years." Ethan's eyes welled up. "We never forgot you. You gave us our mother. You gave us 6 more years." Laura smiled through her tears. "When we found out what was happening, we knew we had to help." Ethan looked around the office, at the quilts on the walls, the photos, the warmth. "My fund," he said. "We want to invest. Not a buyout. A partnership. We want to help you expand. To build a dedicated neurological rehab wing. A place that never turns someone away because of their insurance card." Lara chimed in. "And I'm going to upgrade your entire tech system. Pro bono. State-of-the-art security. Privacy. Everything you need." Ava looked at Marcus, standing in the doorway. He was smiling, tears in his eyes. She looked back at Ethan and Lara. These two incredible adults who had once been small, terrified children. She looked at the crayon drawing on her desk. AVA in wobbly letters. A cape. A rainbow. She looked at Marcus. He squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. The children she'd saved had saved her back. Have you ever had to choose between thoroughs and doing what's right? What would you have done in Ava's position? If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe. See you in the next story.